Did you ever see that movie, Beautiful Mind?
About the guy.
Yeah, that was so strange in his. He was kind of an egomaniac, but he was very. Yeah, that was really.
Head east toward Marsh Avenue, then turn
Who was
left
that?
onto Marsh Avenue.
He was a
Russell
wonderful
Crowe.
actor. Yeah, he was great.
Turn
One
left
of the
onto Marsh
things that I
Avenue.
loved in that
In
movie
1,000 feet,
was,
turn left onto Richmond Hill Road.
after he was well again, after he went off the deep end, and somebody said, "Do you still get visited by those voices or those images?" And he said, "Yes, they try to strike up a relationship in my thought." He said, "But if I don't talk back or reciprocate, they give up." And I thought that was really interesting that he, the way they showed that he understood. Not to you don't have to follow that path. You don't have to have that as your struggle. You can just refuse to answer it. And to me, in a broader way, it stands for everything. I mean,
Street.
For instance, we would never be tempted to go and steal somebody's handbag, right? And so
Turn right onto
it's
Marymount
because
Street.
we have this moral and spiritual clarity about where our substance, where our needs, how our needs are supplied, and that it doesn't work to go down that path because it only makes things worse. Because we just know that, right? And it's really the same thing with the physical that tries to identify itself as your own personal problem. And I'm just using all these examples so that you can sort of see how ridiculous it is when we try to, you understand how ridiculous that whole scenario would be to do something like that, right? And it just doesn't even come into your consciousness to go in some immoral direction. And it's also the same with the physical, with the body, with relationships, with everything, is that if we keep our thought in the direction of truth, which is good, and it blesses all, and that no one is lacking, and that we aren't lacking.
Turn left onto Draper Place, then.
And so that's why we have to watch our thought and stand porter. Mrs. Eddy says, stand porter at the door of thought to resist all that is unlike good, God. And if we keep our thought alert, then there are less and less tricks played on us that want to grab us and pull us into a belief that we are mortal, but we are not. And I was going to tell you about when I was in this car accident. It was interesting because I could see these men all around me, and I thought they all think that that there's something different about me, or that I'm not able, and I thought, my thought is able. I can think, and not in a brainology way, but in a spiritual way. Every thought comes from God, and it lifts me up. And I was quickly healed of this, situation with I asked them to take me to Christian Science Benevolent Association, where it's like a place where you can be cared for physically for the moment, but not, pulling you down into the problem and going that direction for help, and turning to God for help rather than saying, well, God can't do everything. But God is all, and our true nature, it's not something getting fixed. It's really not about fixing matter. It's about seeing that there is no power in matter. It's kind of the opposite thought, and the matter cannot communicate, it has no, no, it's only what we give it. And I'm sure you've seen this if you bang your finger or and you look at it, or you worry about it, or what's it going to do, or, oh, this is really, you become fascinated with it. But if you just say, I'm going right on, and you do, and it's over. There's no pain. Pain is only fear exacerbated. And that's all it is. And once you have no fear and you're very clear, it can't have any reality, because there's only one reality. So
when you had your accidents, were the
In 1,000
paramedics
feet, turn right onto Victory Boulevard.
shocked that you didn't want to go to a hospital?
oh yes, they're actually quite, this is, they probably have worries about people, what would you call it, suing, and, oops, I don't want to go here. I don't think, no. They probably have a lot of, reasons why that has been concocted,
Turn
why
right
they
onto Victory Boulevard.
why they want to keep you on a certain path, because they believe that the world is physical, and that you are
Continue on
physical,
Victory Boulevard for
and
a
that
half
only
mile.
physical can fix physical. But why would you turn to the physical? When you have something at hand, right at hand, it's the safest way to be. No matter what extremities it tries to present to us, the safest help is immediate, right? They actually did
In a quarter
take me to the
mile, turn
hospital,
left.
and then somebody, a Christian Science practitioner, picked me up, and we went to the Benevolent Association in Boston, and that was when, it was a really
Turn left.
a wonderful experience, because I was just immediately, the thought around me was just so uplifting that I just was able to.
In 1.5. Turn left onto Willow Road East. In 1,000 feet, continue straight to stay on Willow Road East. Continue straight to stay on Willow Road East. In a quarter mile, turn left onto Forest Avenue.
Well, my sister had, when she was in high school, was this was really interesting, because we lived in this little tiny town, and everybody in the town's eyes were on us, because we were kind of an odd entity, because we weren't from there, for one thing, and we lived, something about us had a different feeling for them. And then when she was out of school, ill for
Continue
6
on
months,
Forest Avenue for a half mile.
there was, a lot of probably talk about it and so forth. And I remember my mother, we used to, just have to, it was just, the thought in our family became darker and darker as we couldn't quite climb out of this hole. And so she couldn't eat or anything, so she became just a little skeleton. And so one day I was reading to her, and from the Bible and Science and Health, and I said to my sister, you can you can walk away from this. This is not your true being. And you just have to listen and just turn to God. Just turn to God. And she never forgot that. And soon after that, a good friend of our family, she was a Christian Science practitioner, and she stopped to visit. And my mother had asked her if she could come and see us. And she walked in and she noticed that all the draperies in the house were closed, and it was just dark, and nothing had been, there was no life. And she went around and I watched her just like swinging open all the windows and the drapes and everything and just opening it up. And she just said, let's just lift, into in other words, she saw that there was no problem. That there was no problem. That it was only that we had given this problem attention. And within days, my sister was back in school. She just had this amazing summer.
Head west on Forest
You would
Avenue
never
toward
know
Healy Avenue.
that she had been
In
an
500
invalid
feet,
for
turn right
half
onto
the year.
Harbor Road.
And all the whole problem just completely
Turn right onto Harbor Road.
just went away. And so how do you explain that? You can't explain it by material measures, because that's not the way, we have
Continue on
outlined
Harbor
matter
Road for 3/4 of a mile.
to be. But if you take the power away from matter and give all power to God, which is, like I said, it's like the sun. It doesn't turn it on or turn it off. It's just a matter of turning to it or acknowledging it, and being that a practice. Example that I like is that it doesn't matter how many times you write 2 + 2 = 5, or how many people believe it, or how many places it covers the world. It still can't work. It can't actually work. So the same thing with health and everything. The health problems haven't gone away. They've only increased. And yet we're asking for more health care. But our health is most quickly cared for and most thoroughly progressed through our spiritual thought. But it's not that we're fixing it. We're not attending to the health. We're attending to the truth. And it's just common sense. And an intelligent person doesn't even argue with that. It doesn't try to convince anything or convince it. Well, it's no different.
Head north on Harbor Road, then make a U-turn. Make a U-turn, then
This
turn
is
right
usually
onto Richmond
an
Terrace.
open way to go in, but because I think they took the day off, it's closed. So I have to turn around here. There is no death. It's no different than any other. There aren't degrees of seriousness. Telephone pole moved when it came closer to me when I was backing up. So that
Turn right onto Richmond
it's
Terrace.
simply answered, but it's more. It's an Mrs. Eddy says that death, or the illusion of death, is nothing more than an accumulation of unsolved problems. And you have to consent, she says. You must consent to death. But that's not. Our life isn't in matter. That's why.
Turn right onto Andros Avenue, then your destination will be on the left.
People who die thinking that they're going to find comfort, or they have nothing else to do,
Your destination
or
is
they
on
have
the
no
left.
hope, or whatever. Nothing changes, because it's our thought that needs to change. And what we are calling life is really the atom dream. It's really the belief that our life is in matter, but our life isn't in matter or of it. And it doesn't mean that we don't try to live a good life, or make things beautiful, or because all that is a spiritual expression of divine love. It's just love and light and inspiration and innovation and discovery, and all those things are natural qualities, but they're not material qualities. They're immovable. They can't ever be taken from us.
In what you're saying, there's no contradiction between the fact that you're eschewing matter, but you have spent a career creating objects.
Right. Well, that's the same question that, Jesus was asked, and Mary Baker Eddy and other people who, understood things on a different level. So that's a typical question. Why would you fix matter? Well, as I said, I return to it. We're not, in the business of fixing matter. It's not about that. It only is a result of our thought. But it's gratitude. I think it's gratitude is where it is. I'm so grateful. I just want to, express that. And so whatever's at hand, in other words, what was the question? Was it, why would you? And, it's also a question we need to ask ourselves all the time.
Can you repeat the question?
Oh, the question, yeah. Well, the question of why would we make things or fix things or do work to make things better in a physical way if that's not real. And I think that's a really important question. And I battle with that question. The only answer I have at the moment is that it's not ego. If it's not ego-based, if it's not, I want to be, aggrandized or thanked or anything like that. If you're just naturally playing like a child would, or like an animal in nature, or it's again what we do or seem to be doing is a reflection of the qualities of soul and spirit. It's not our occupation. Our occupation is spiritual. But I think it's important not to get grabbed by it and identified by it. The world wants to classify us as, this person is, I think I've talked to you about this before, an artist, or this person is talented and this person isn't, or we don't want to get grabbed by that, like, I'm supposed to, my job has been assigned to me that I'm supposed to do this or that or the other thing, and so I've got to do it, and let go of all of those restraints and glorifications, because it only adds to falling off of a pedestal. And we learn those lessons as we go. And I think as our thought becomes more spiritualized, our work becomes more that. And the results become more magnificent because the brilliance of the clarity of thought. And we're not wading through masses of matter trying to make a better world. So that's an example of what looks like a healing, but it's really just a revealing. There isn't really anything such as healing because nothing was broken. And that's what makes it seem like a miracle, is because people are looking at matter and saying that matter changed, but there's no way that matter can. It's nothing. Even the highest scientists in physical science know that there is no matter. When they break down an atom, they find nothing. There's nothing.